Today from the Global Lane, Hamas makes a choice, surrender or die. Why this Gaza peace plan differs from all the others.
This current plan all sound good. It just takes a tremendous leap of faith to believe that the Palestinians have had or are willing to change their political culture and embrace peace. But the difference now is that the United States is, adding the or else.
The former FBI director indicted. How solid is the case against him?
There's meat on these bones. There's no doubt about it. And it's a very narrow indictment.
Los Angeles, Chicago, Portland. The billionaire funding protest in America's big blue cities.
There is something common to these demonstrations, and that is to create, this is resistance, to change the United States of America.
Is peace coming to Gaza? What Islamic teachings and the Bible say? And it's all right here on the Global Lane. Endgame. This week, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu unveiled a 20-point peace plan for Gaza. It put Hamas on notice. Embrace peace, release the remaining hostages, or face your ultimate demise. Here to provide some insights on the plan and the prospects for peace is Jewish News Syndicate Editor-in-Chief Jonathan Tobin. Jonathan, you've had some time to digest this peace plan, so how is it different than what we've seen before?
Well, the difference in this plan is not so much, the assumptions that, underlie some of the details, but the fact that President Trump has promised that if Hamas doesn't accept peace, if it doesn't release the hostages, disarm, leave Gaza, turn it over to an international authority, that he will give a green light to Israel to finish Hamas off. That's the difference. In the past, we've had lots of peace plans with lots of theoretical ideas about peace that all sounded good. Indeed, the assumptions behind this current plan all sound good. It just takes a tremendous leap of faith to believe that the Palestinians have had or are willing to change their political culture and embrace peace. But the difference now is that the United States is, adding the or else, which is why it's being, Trump is being criticized by many on the left. They don't like it, the fact that Hamas isn't being given leeway. They don't like the fact that Hamas is being told, take it or else. But that is the difference here. A lot of the other details in it, in some ways seems like a repeat of past efforts to make peace. The assumption that pouring more aid into Gaza and trusting that there is some kind of, I would say, mythical group of Palestinian technocrats who are apolitical and have no interest in destroying Israel. All of those assumptions, they're basically fairy tales, which would be nice if it all came true. But the difference, again, is this time the United States means business, or at least it says it means business, and that is to the good.
And the proposal unveils a positive vision for the future of Gaza. Arab countries and Europeans were involved and reportedly gave it their approval. So how significant is that, their involvement?
It is good in theory. The trouble is we've had, you said it before, we've had other peace plans in the past, go back to the Oslo Accords in 1993 and all of the peace processing of the last 30 plus years, they all sounded good. But they were all based on this assumption that the Palestinians actually wanted peace. The former Israeli foreign minister, Abba Eban, the late Abba Eban, famously said, the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And that was very witty. And it was true in that the Palestinians turned down innumerable opportunities for peace dating back to 1947, when the fledgling United Nations offered them an Arab state next to a Jewish state. They've been turning down peace plans all along. But the thing is, they didn't see those as opportunities because they were never interested in peace with a Jewish state, no matter where its borders were drawn. They wanted no Jewish state at all. Their definition of peace is no Jews in what is the land of Israel. Most of the Palestinians are still saying that. That's what Hamas believes. Frankly, it's what the so-called moderates of the Palestinian Authority, who are being told they must reform in Trump's plan, they're not to be trusted on this issue either. Again, the difference is Trump has put teeth in this plan, unlike every other, unlike, say, President Clinton, who also had a nice vision for peace, but when the Palestinians refused to make peace and violated the terms of the Oslo Accords, he turned a blind eye. Trump is saying he won't do that.
Well, an international stabilization force will be established with Jordan and Egypt training Palestinian police and security personnel. How can Israel be guaranteed those trained will not target Israel again? Can a leopard change its spots?
It can't really be guaranteed. Let's be honest here, and that's that's what I say when there's a lot of elements in this that require enormous leaps of faith. This has been tried before. The Palestinian Authority police were trained by the United States. Forget about Egypt and Jordan. We had U.S. generals, in Judea and Samaria and Gaza, trying to train Palestinian police. And instead, they turned on Israel during the Second Intifada and waged war on Israel. So, no, of course, Israel can't trust to that. But Israel isn't really trusting to that. Israel is not going to relinquish. It's not going to lower its guard the way it did in the past. It's not going to withdraw from Gaza to let Hamas take it back over, or let some new armed force, which can't be trusted, take it back over, only when they see that President Trump's terms are being obeyed and to the letter on in terms of Hamas disarming, Hamas giving up control, and a genuine peaceful, government of some sort of administration put in there, will Israel withdraw, and not before that. And that is clear. Prime Minister Netanyahu bent way over backwards to say yes to this plan from his friend President Trump. He even had to apologize to Qatar for going after Hamas terrorists in Qatar, who are hosted there, who fund Hamas, who fund the Muslim Brotherhood, and whom, unfortunately, President Trump and his administration treats as a reliable ally. Netanyahu went a long way to say yes to this, but he's counting on President Trump to keep his word that if Hamas doesn't do as Trump and his decency requires, to release the hostages, to lay down their arms, end this war, which never should have happened, then Israel will not give up another inch of Gaza.
Okay, we'll see what happens here. Jonathan Tobin, Jewish News Syndicate Editor-in-Chief. Thank you, Jonathan. We appreciate it for you being with us and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Revenge or justice? The federal grand jury indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. Just how strong is the case against him? And are more indictments against other former government officials coming? Joining us is former federal prosecutor and 2024 GOP senatorial candidate for Massachusetts, John Deaton. John, it's good to talk with you again. So former Trump lawyer Ty Cobb reportedly said he doesn't believe Comey will be convicted. What are your thoughts? How strong is this case against a former FBI director?
Well, listen, a lot is going to be depending on your interpretation. There's meat on these bones. There's no doubt about it. And it's a very narrow indictment. He's been charged with 2 federal counts. One is false statement before Congress, and 2, obstructing a congressional proceeding. And it's all related to him definitely leaking information. He admitted that he leaked information by giving information that was classified, his notes with meeting Trump, to his friend to give to the media in hopes that a special counsel would be appointed. And that happened. And so the question is, did he do it as director or not as director of the FBI? And a lot's going to come down to timing. But listen, the grand jury refused 1 indictment and came back with 2. So I think there's enough to get a conviction.
Well, the current director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, FBI Director Kash Patel, they all say they have evidence that Comey was instrumental in advancing the Russia hoax, but he signed off on a request, as you know, with the FISA court based on false evidence to conduct surveillance against Carter Page. Now, there's a statute of limitations on that and other possible crimes. So is this the only shot the DOJ has to hold Comey accountable for weaponizing the FBI against Donald Trump?
this is the kicker here. Conspiracy related to national security could trigger other statutes that have a 10-year statute of limitations. So there is a chance that Comey could be indicted. If they can show coordination between Brennan and other members, McCabe, where they relied on unverified information, i.e. the Steele dossier, knowing that it was not likely to be true, but push the Russia investigation, then there could be another charge coming.
How likely are possible indictments against former DNI Clapper, former CIA Director Brennan, also for lying to Congress and other things?
Listen, I'm with you. I do not believe this is an isolated indictment and that there won't be others coming. And there is information, and how do you prove it is through text messages, signal messages, emails. And I think that Brennan and all these others, McCabe as well, have probably lawyered up and are expecting a potential indictment.
Well, how about Barack Obama? Because Gabbard, Patel, and Ratcliffe think he may have directed the altering of intelligence to advance the fake Russia narrative against Trump to destroy him and his political influence. So can a former president be indicted for his actions in office?
Well, that's a great question. And I would normally say, of course, anybody is American citizen and no one's above the law and can be indicted. But the fascinating twist here is that the Supreme Court's decision on immunity related to President Trump is probably a gift to President Obama. If, in fact, he were indicted, he would actually rely on that decision by the Supreme Court that said a president acting in his presidential capacity could be immune.
John, a lot of people are saying that Gabbard is just, this is just the revenge tour. Gabbard is just coming up with things, finding things that she thinks point to this, but they really don't. What do you think of the evidence that you've seen thus far that Gabbard and others have released?
I mean, listen, if Comey didn't act the way he did, this is related to, look at the Hillary Clinton 30,000 emails where he says that she absolutely violated the law, did some wrong stuff, but it's not worth prosecuting. At the same time, he definitely pushed a narrative of that there was Trump collusion based on information that he knew was not a valid information, led to a special investigation, a special counsel. Had he not acted in that way, he wouldn't have been indicted, in my opinion. So, no, I think that it's clear there's enough evidence that these individuals in our government were going to save democracy by sacrificing democracy in an effort to keep Trump out of the White House at all costs. And listen, if they violate the law, they should be prosecuted.
Well, a lot of Trump's adversaries say this only about retribution, going after those who pursued justice against him and his crimes. But there's a bigger issue about justice, restoring confidence in the rule of law, the idea that no person is above the law. So what, in your opinion, is at stake here?
Listen, we've lost faith in our institutions. We've lost faith in some of the basic norms of our constitutional republic. We've got to get back to a system of law and order that no one's above the law. And that's why I said, at the same time, the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, are saying that, look, this lawfare is that they're engaging in, that the Trump administration is engaging in, and the weaponization of DOJ, that they're calling it out. But at the same time, they're saying anyone who works with President Trump, when we get back in power, you're on notice. So at some point, we've got to stop these retribution here. You stop that by holding people who violate the law accountable. That's important because the American public believes there's two tiers of justice in America, those for the powerful who get away with it and those for the rest of us.
John Deaton, thank you for sharing your insights. We appreciate it, John. Follow the money. Some of the leaders and participants of anti-ICE and deportation demonstrations are paid protest professionals. So who's funding them and why? Our next guest contends one billionaire and his influence is reshaping American society, and it's not Donald Trump. Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld is author of the book, The Soros Agenda. She's also the founder and president of the American Center for Democracy and the Economic Warfare Institute. Rachel, it's good to talk with you again. So last time we talked, we discussed George Soros's Open Society Foundation funding of pro-Hamas protests on college campuses. We know about his funding of open borders and mass immigration, not only in the U.S., but also in Europe. So tell us about the funding of anti-ICE protests in cities like Chicago, L.A., and Portland.
If you pay attention to pictures, videos of the demonstrations, you will also see several of the demonstrators carrying also Palestinian flags or Hamas flags. So there is something common to these demonstrations, and that is to create, this is resistance. Hamas is resistance, demonstrations against ICE officers and law enforcement and police and everything is also resistance. So yeah, there is something, some mutual interest in those who funding these demonstrations everywhere.
Well, what is Soros's goal, Rachel? What is his goal?
Soros's goal was to change the United States of America. Well, he has done a lot towards that and achieved a lot of chaos. And chaos seems to be the main goal of all this funding of various resistance movements, or as they call them, justice movements. So it is justice because you are not supposed to, well, why are you going after illegal migrants? Criminally illegal migrants? Are you out of your mind? They are nice people. They should be here. They should rape and rob a few more people, right? Or kill. So the goal is really to create as much chaos as possible and to defy and weaken the influence and the power of law enforcement. And also it's ICE, I mean, law enforcement, it's everybody that actually tries to enforce the law. And this way also to demoralize the people who are doing their jobs.
I know Ryan Morrow of the Capital Research Center found $80 million in open society funding of groups tied to terrorism and violence. So who else is funding the protests?
Well, there are some pro-China and others who think like the Soroses. So it could be other liberal tied. Funding through Tides Foundation is good because Tides is funding all kinds of progressive projects. And this is really, it's a pool of money that donors are sending in for whatever projects they want to fund.
Well, President Trump has designated Antifa a terrorist organization. He's called for criminal charges against Soros and his son Alex under the RICO statute. So should that happen, what else needs to be done to stop all this?
Well, this has been, now, the Justice Department, I was glad to see that the prosecutor was put in charge at DOJ to do these investigations. There was a whole team. But the prosecutor was Senator Grassley's, worked with Senator Grassley apparently on following the money. So there are new organizations almost, I don't know, I follow the stuff, it's like almost every day. Palestinian terrorist organizations designated as such by, not always by the United States, but recently more, Israel and the United States, and all of them affiliated with Hamas, and many of them are paying for people to go and kill for Palestinian terrorists to go and kill Jews or any other infidel.
Okay, so it's going to be extremely difficult to nail all this down, but the investigation's underway. Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld, author of the book, The Soros Agenda, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
After President Trump unveiled his 20-point peace plan for Gaza this week, He further explained his expectations from Hamas.
You know, with Hamas, we want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately, and we want some good behavior. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East.
Arab leaders appear to be growing tired of funding and supporting Hamas and its anti-Semitic terrorism, at least for now. They've used the Palestinians for years to advance their own anti-Israel agendas. Have you noticed that the peace plan they support keeps the Palestinians in Gaza while it's reconstructed? They do not care about the Palestinians, nor do they want hundreds of thousands of refugees in their countries. They remember all too well the events of 1970 and Black September, when the PLO attempted to overthrow the Jordanian monarchy. They witnessed how the Lebanese welcomed the Palestinians into their country afterward, and how the Palestinians tried to take control there and launch attacks against Israel. The Lebanese ultimately paid a heavy price at the hands of the Israeli Defense Forces. While the peace plan sounds promising, potentially leading to the release of all remaining hostages and an end to violence and a prosperous Gaza Strip, it's unlikely to result in long-term peace between Palestinians and Jews. While we should be hopeful, we must also be realistic. Most Palestinians are not interested in living side by side with Jews. They want control over all of Israel. Muslims are taught an apocalyptic prophecy that the end times will not come until they fight with the Jews. And the stone behind which a Jew will be hiding will say, "Oh, Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me, so kill him." Muslims are also instructed not to take Jews and Christians as friends. Oh, you who have believed, do not take the Jews and the Christians as allies. They are in fact allies of one another. Most Palestinians and Muslims are unfamiliar with the words of the Old Testament or the Hebrew God Yahweh. If they understood God's word, they would realize that fighting Israel is futile. In Isaiah 60:21, God told the prophet that after the exile in Babylon and the restoration of Israel, all your people will be righteous, and they will possess the land forever. They are the shoot I have planted, the work of my hands for the display of my splendor. So the creator of the universe has placed the Israelis there forever, for him. They're not going anywhere. So let us turn to the Bible for wisdom and guidance on how this will all end, and to know the only one who will bring true peace to our lives and nations. Well, that's it today from the Global Lane. Until next time, be blessed.